welcome to another episode of the OnStage Colorado podcast. I'm Alex Miller.
And I'm Toni Tresca.
And as we start winding down the year this week on the podcast, we're going to be discussing some of the shows we've seen as usual, talking through some news, sharing our top 10 Colorado headliners, which are shows coming up in the next few weeks we think might be of interest. And for our main topic, we're going to, like everybody's doing, we're going to do a little bit of a retrospective on some of the top stories from 2025. And of course, for us, that means Colorado theater stories.
Yeah, I've gone back through the year and just kind of selected some of the stories that I think just define 2025. But before we get into that, let's talk about what we saw recently on stage.
Yeah, well, I had, I guess say a hit and a miss. I went to It's a Wonderful Life, a live radio play at Miners Alley. So this was, you and I kind of did the double header because they're doing a little bit of a Christmas rep thing where they're alternating between their original brand new world premiere Stocking Stuffers, which sounds like it's just a hoot and a half. I really want to get out and see that with It's a Wonderful Life, this live radio play, which is, it's a well-known title. A lot of people like to do it. It's a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. It had a really great cast. It had Noelia Antweiler and her husband, Brick Burks, on stage at the same time, which is a very rare thing to see, and they were great, and Tim Fishbaugh and Matt Combs, who else? Rachel Turner. So really great cast, really fun show, heartwarming show, and really audience-pleasing show for the Christmas time. And I have to say that It's a Wonderful Life definitely has a Christmas theme, but it's not super heavy Christmas, really, until kind of towards the end.
Definitely, yeah. It's more of just a kind of classic morality piece about how hard it is to be a decent man in our terrible world.
Yeah, and it definitely had some, shades of evil rich guys that certainly resonates with us who are still dealing with those kinds of folks around and will be forever, I suppose. And then the other show, went out and saw The Mystery of Edwin Drood at Vintage Theater, and boy, this was a real miss for me. And Andy, my son Andy, was with me as well. And when the intermission came around, we just looked at each other. I'm like, I'm not sure what we're seeing here. And it wasn't necessarily the performance. I mean, the production was fine. I didn't recognize a ton of the actors on stage. Bernie Cardell directed, and I don't know, there was just something about it. None of the songs hit for us. It just seemed, I guess it was supposed to be funny, but I wasn't laughing. And it was just kind of a miss. So I wound up choosing not to review that just because I couldn't think of anything that great to say about it. But like I said, it wasn't necessarily the production. So it was just one of those ones I was just, sometimes, you're going to hit those.
Definitely. I performed in this show in college, and I remember it being very fun to perform in, but I could definitely see how this play that is highly meta, highly relies on audience interaction and participation could just fall flat on its face if the audience is not receptive to that, or even in just like a slightly less than polished production, because it is definitely supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be riffing on English music hall traditions.
Yes. Perhaps
that's also just not something that American audiences know well enough to do a spoof of.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I'm not familiar with that culture at all. I know it's a huge thing in Britain, but I don't know. I've never seen any of that stuff. I don't know about it, even though I'm fairly well familiar with English culture, but that's not one part of it I know.
Yeah, there aren't a ton of like contemporary examples of that kind of music hall style in performance. I mean, The Mystery of Edwin Drood is the example that people point to of this in modern times. And so, yeah, I can see like when we did our dramaturgical work, when I was acting in the production, I learned all about the history of this. And so all those little in-jokes and how to interact with the audience made sense to me. But devoid of that context, I could see how the show is very challenging, because it's referencing like the matinee idol and kind of the interplay, how older people are received in the music hall versus the kind of young contemporaries, how the audience interaction works. And so, since you left an intermission, you also didn't even get to the most fun part of The Mystery of Edwin Drood, right, which is actually the voting, because Mystery of Edwin Drood is an incomplete novel by Charles Dickens. He died before it was finished. And so in the second act, very quickly, they turn the show over to the audience and you kind of get to vote. And so I wonder if you had stayed for the second act, what you would have thought of it, or if it just wouldn't have helped at all.
It might have, but yeah, very rare that I ever do that. But this was just one night we were just couldn't go there. So, but on a more positive note, so Stocking Stuffers, I really enjoyed reading your review of this show. It sounded like it was just fantastic, just a real fun ride.
It really was. This is a new piece by David Nels and his frequent writing partner, Betsy Kelso, who they work together on the Great American Trailer Park musical, as well as its Christmas show edition. And this is just kind of a sketch show that features four very talented Colorado actors. Damien, how do you say his last name?
Garasino?
Features four very talented Colorado actors, Damian Garcia, Norel Moore, Clark Destiny Jones, and Lainey Rigg, just kind of alternating at a breakneck speed from characters and sketches and situations, all sending up the holiday season. You've got everything from the opening number, Jesus Christ, It's Christmas Again, which announces right away that this is going to be, if you are sick of all the sparkle and holiday and forced cheer, this is not that show. There's lots of cursing. Don't bring the little ones. There's lots of sex jokes. My favorite one was this cookie sketch with Lainey and Norel in the second act. And as soon as you saw the cookie molds come out, you knew that dick jokes were coming, and come they did, but it was still so funny. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny.
And so by the time they're making jokes about frosting just the tip, me and the entire audience were in tears with laughter. And if that kind of irreverent, offbeat, immature humor offends you, or you're not open to that, just stay at home, because you're not going to like this show. The show's not for you, but for everybody else who can kind of get in fast and loose, this is very South Park in style, in that they skewer everybody from like the very sensitive opening speech that they do, which is very reminiscent of theater announcements that I've heard in actual theaters, that they just, here's all these warnings. So here's another thing to be careful about. Oh, and don't sue us if you get offended, except for the band. Because fuck the band. And so from that to kind of, they are referencing like, they're caroling for white nationalists. They are talking about, they make references to Jewish space lasers, sending up Marjorie Taylor Greene comments. So it's really, there's always a joke coming. It's really fast paced. And I really just had a whole hell of a lot of fun with this one.
Yeah, I got to see it. Got to see it. So, but you're at a whole bunch more shows. So you're at Jacob Marley's Christmas Carol from Elemental Theater, formerly known as Wheat Ridge Theater Company. And you thought this was a pretty good production for them. This is only their second or so since they've come back?
That's right. Yeah, it's their second production. They did Pygmalion earlier this year. I didn't get out to see that one. And so I was like, you know what? I gotta check out their Christmas offering. This is the first of two Jacob Marley's Christmas carols that are happening in Colorado. The second one is happening over in Breckenridge. They're opening at this weekend, but Denver got the first peek at this script, and directed by Selena Namoff. This is a very minimalistic production. There really is no set. There's very minimal costumes. It's just relying on these four actors, B. Glick, Maggie Wingate, C. Troy Floor, and Daniel Von Note, to bring life to this story, along with some very subtle lighting shifts and sound design, as well as an original score, which you don't often see here in community theater productions, I should say. And I thought overall this was a very well done production. The pacing was very taut. It kept moving. It's staged over at the Meisel Center inside the JCC in Denver. That space is not huge, but she uses it very effectively. Actors are entering from all sides, even including the audience, the back, and they use the space very well. And I would say that this works best if you are already familiar with the Christmas Carol, rather than having this be your first exposure to the piece, because I think it would be a little bit like watching Wicked without having any context of The Wizard of Oz. You can still enjoy it, but it's going to be harder to get your hands around, because there are certain lines that get referenced, like when they're looking at Tiny Tim and they say just, oh, send him to the poorhouses and whatnot. And that's referencing a line from the actual Christmas Carol that Scrooge says earlier. But because we don't hear that line, because we're seeing this all through Jacob Marley, his former business partner's perspective, it just works a little bit better, I think, if you already have that context. And if you're like me and you've seen dozens of Christmas carols now, this is a really welcome addition that adds, I think, to that. B. Glick, they're giving a really nuanced performance here, one of the best I think I've seen from them. And the rest of the cast is very game as well.
Great. All right. Well, you also went out to, this is a show that we were talking about last time, Granny Dances to a Holiday Drum. So this is a holiday tradition for Cleo Parker Robinson Dance Theater. And you really enjoyed this.
I did. It was my first time checking it out. I really didn't know what to expect. Besides, I've talked to a couple of other colleagues in the arts and culture journalism world who have just kind of been a little bit dismissive of it. I think because it happens every year. This is the
Right.
34th edition. And so I had kind of written it off, I think, because of that. I was like, but when Cleo Parker Robinson Dance announced that this was going to be the final year that Granny Dances to a Holiday Drum on its stage before they open their new Center for the Healing Arts over Martin Luther King Jr. weekend in 2026, I figured I ought to check it out in the original location. And I'm really glad I did, because it's this really joyous toe-tapping celebration of different cultural celebrations from around the world. The story is framed through these two grandkids who are helping their grandmother, who is a respected elder who passes down stories, keep her memories alive. She's kind of aging, and so she's forgetting things. But when she dances and remembers where she danced around the world, she's able to light up again. And so it's this really joyous holiday production that then takes you on a globe trotting romp through all kinds of celebrations, everything from Kwanzaa to Hanukkah to Diwali to Japanese New Year to how the Brazilians celebrate Chinese New Year, indigenous peoples, how they welcome the winter solstice. It's a really rich, joyous storytelling piece. And I just had a lot of fun. Cleo Parker Robinson teams, groups are all really world-class dancers. And so the dance was at the top of its form. There was like this one part in the piece where one of the dancers did 12 standing jumping jack toe touches in a row.
What?
And the audience was losing their mind appropriately. And that level of skill is really infused into every single number. It's very acrobatic. There's lots of flipping and jumping, as well as hip hop styles of dances with more classical ballet. There's also tap thrown in there. So you really, whatever style of dance you like or whatever you celebrate this holiday season, chances are you're going to see it reflected on stage.
Wow. Yeah. Just looking at the photos of that, they were so colorful. The costumes are fantastic. And like just, hitting on all those different cultural, export or holidays, not just Christmas, but at this time of year, it looked like a really great, just kind of a really great celebration of this country in terms of the opposite of what others are doing to celebrate all of the, the different ethnicities and customs and traditions and people from different countries and all that. So hats off to Cleo Parker Robinson for keeping that light burning all these years.
Absolutely. And as I noted in the review, there's a couple technical issues that happened at the performance I attended, particularly with the microphones, but that can be forgiven given that the building next door, the Center for the Healing Arts, is literally almost done. It's about to be open. I imagine their priority is not on updating their microphone systems inside their old space. So I gave them a pass on that one, even
Okay.
if I did suggest that they clean it up before the rest of the performances.
Yeah. And so one other Christmassy show, Christmas movie, The Play, The Beginning. I was curious to hear about this one because we had interviewed the creative force behind this in last week. So
Yeah, this was, I think, my least favorite of the things I saw this weekend, just because it was not quite as funny as I think it was billed as. It was a lot more Hallmark than horror,
uh,
too. It was more, and because it's following this woman, you know her, she's a girl boss, corporate girl. She works at a toy factory. She has to come back to deal with her great aunt's stuff. She falls in love. She has this relationship with this hunky-ish guy in town, and she has to do this fundraiser. And that's the bulk of the show. And so there's a lot of puns and wordplay and corporate satire that's in there. But it all feels just a little bit more clever like clever writing, like, oh yeah, that's a joke that you've written, rather
Uh-huh.
than like laugh out loud funny, like, oh wow, God, that was hilarious. Until the last like 15 minutes when it actually fulfills its premise. A demon gets let loose, it starts murdering everybody. There's a WWE Mortal Kombat-esque fight between the demon and Santa Claus. And in that moment, you're kind of like, yeah, this is really awesome and fun. It ends with a bang with the demon dying, and there's this massive explosion of confetti. It sends you off on a high note, but it just kind of takes a while to get there.
Ah, so this is Unleashed Theater Company, and where's this one being staged again?
So it's being staged in multiple locations all around Colorado. It started its run at Western Sky in Inglewood. I caught its Sunday performance over at the Junkyard Social Club in Boulder. And if for the rest of its performances, you're going to have to go to the Denver area where they're going to be performing at both of Ratio Beer Works' location, the one in Overland as well as its Rhino location.
Okay. All right. And then in Boulder, you saw A Few Good Men from Upstart Crow, and I thought this was a pretty good production, given that it's a pretty big leap for a little company to do this show.
I will be very honest with you, Alex. I went in kind of with very, very low expectations for this one, just because of everything you said. It's a very challenging script. Upstart Crow has been very, very hit or miss for me. And so I kind of, when they reached out about this production, I was like, I need to go see it because I haven't seen stuff from Upstart Crow in a little while, and I want to see what they're working with. This is an interesting show to pick around the holidays, particularly because it's not holiday at all. It's actually about war crimes in Guantanamo Bay and the military bureaucracy. And even though everybody knows that famous courtroom scene with "You can't handle the truth," that's only one part of it. It really is it's a very fast-paced play, lots of different locations, which can be really tricky for community theater to kind of handle. Aaron Sorkin's writing is very fast. It requires lots of scene changes and really strong characterization. And I think that this production, helmed by um, Ed Costello, he really nailed it because of the casting of the three leads. Daniel Kofke is played by T.J. Jackson. That's the Tom Cruise character. Sam Weinberg is played by Carmy Schneider. I believe that's the role you said you've played, Alex,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
in the past. And then Jordan Hull plays Joanne Galloway, that fiery lawyer, played by Demi Moore in the film version. That trio has absolutely electric chemistry. They're able to go through the entire range of emotions, from they're joyously celebrating together to when Joanne fucks up a question and they think they're going to lose, just being in absolute pits. They're quick with jokes, but they're also nailing the dramatic exchanges. I was really impressed with TJ Jackson in particular. He's a performer who was new to me. He moved here from Atlanta after working in their theater and film scene. And oh my God, are we lucky to have him here in Denver. He is a absolutely magnetic talent on stage. He's just dripping with charisma, but he also is able to navigate the more dramatic beats that this character has to play as he's trying to live up to his father's legacy, but doesn't really want to actually try too hard because he's afraid of failure. It was a really rich, nuanced performance. And then the rest of the supporting cast was pretty strong too. There were some community theater stumbles, like the transitions often took way too long. There were some dropped lines in the second act and some early entrances and late entrances that just slowed down the pace, particularly in that second act. But those little missteps aside, the production overall is really strong. It's definitely the strongest thing I personally have ever seen from Upstart Crow.
All right. Great. Well, that one is going to be up through the 14th. So you've got through this weekend to see A Few Good Men from Upstart Crow. They're in Boulder. So what's in the news? It seems a little slow right now, but there are a few things to touch on.
Yeah. So companies are either about to open their holiday season show or currently performing a show, as well as trying to do all of their end of year fundraising, which just makes things a little bit slower. By the way, we are recording this on Colorado Gives Day. And as of 11 a.m., I have received 37 emails to my main inbox, and God only knows how many to my spam folder.
Yes, it's a busy email day. really. Everybody's trying to get their Colorado Gives Day thing in, which it really is I think there's a matching fund, and it's a great way to go in and you can, if you're interested in supporting the arts, you can go to the website, the Colorado Gives Day website, and drill down to just look and see what those types of organizations are that you can fund, or of course you can fund ones that and want to support anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. Last week we kind of ribbed Colorado Gives Day and whatnot a little bit because there is so much attention on these days. It can kind of feel like a little bit of white noise, but it is very important, particularly if your organizations have matching support behind them of a substantial amount. That can really be a game changer for local organizations. But while everybody in the arts world is kind of focused on fundraising or their holiday shows, that does make things, like we said, just a little bit quiet. But there are a couple of newsy things going on, including with the Denver Actors Fund, which is run by John Moore, who we are going to have on the show next week. And the Denver Actors Fund has announced that they're going to be hosting 2 healthcare information sessions. And so if you have your own non-employee sponsor healthcare, you probably already know that there are major changes coming to the Affordable Care Act in 2026. And that's because those subsidies provided by the American Rescue Plan are expiring. And given how divided Congress is, it seems unlikely that those subsidies will be extended before the new year. So if you are one of those people who are going to be affected by that and you're feeling confused or overwhelmed, these information sessions are going to be a great way for you to learn more, because you're going to be connected with somebody from Connect for Health Colorado, which is the state's official healthcare insurance market plan. So you can bring your questions, your worries to these information sessions that are going to be happening Saturday, December 20th, and Tuesday, January 6th.
All right. I'm sure you can find all about that on the Denver Actors Fund website. And it's great that they're doing that, because it is a scary time, and especially for people, like a lot of people in the theater community do not have traditional employers or traditional healthcare plans. So good on them.
Yeah, I think this is a really awesome thing that the Denver Actors Fund is doing. And this is all happening thanks to Jane Stewart, who they say is organizing this to support the community. So thank you, Jane.
All right.
In other news, Netflix, aka the new potential owners of Warner Brothers, because what the hell even is antitrust in this country anymore?
Yep.
They have announced that the high-profile documentary Elway, which examines the legacy of former Broncos quarterback John Elway, is going to be released on Monday, December 22nd. Alex, you got to see this one early at the 48th Denver Film Festival. Are you planning to check it out again on the streamer? And do you recommend it for non-Broncos fans?
No, and probably no. I don't know. I'm much more interested in the doings of Bo Nix and the 2025 Denver Broncos than I am in the 1996 Denver Broncos team. But it is a great story. John Elway was a great player, and had it's a decent documentary. Like I said in my review, it's not nothing too far outside the realm of any other NFL films documentary you would see. But it was fun, especially if you're like me and a lot of other Coloradans who were around in those days, and all that excitement, because it was the first time that the Broncos got to the Super Bowl and won it. And there was plenty of trials and tribulations leading up to it, and so it is fun to watch. So I would say, if you're a Broncos fan, for sure. If you're a football fan, yeah, definitely, he was one of the greats. If you're not a football fan or a Broncos fan, I would go see Wicked again or something. Or maybe not, because you said the second Wicked movie sucks. So
yeah, I was like, I think I may just stay home and not watch anything. Maybe I'll read a book.
Yeah, I was looking at all this, my dance card on like Netflix, and there is so much stuff to watch right now. Stuff that I would like to see. That I am in no danger of being bored on that front. But of course, I still like to get out to live theater too, so I got to fit all that in. But anyway, well, let's move on to our main topic, which is 2025 Colorado Theater Wrapped or Unwrapped or whatever. So do you want to kick us off here?
Yeah, so for our main topic today, we are going to be discussing some of the biggest theater news that has transpired from January 2025 through December. And although Alex and I did see Back to the Future the musical this year, we don't have the ability to time travel. So this will not include any news past December 9th when we recorded this episode. But since it's the start of the slow news season, we decided now was as good of a time as any to dig in.
Okay, here's the Wayback Noise machine noise here. So in January, we kicked things off. I don't know, I guess mid-month with hosting the second annual OnStage Colorado Awards, which we call the Oscars, where we honored outstanding work that we saw in 2024 based on the 200 reviews that we published in 2024, and that was a lot of fun. And it's a lot of work, but we kind of made the decision that we were going to, not just have one winner, like say the Henry Awards or whatever, or two, and rather have multiple winners. So it's a little bit of a hybrid thing there. And I don't know, we may still change it up, and but who knows? But we'll be doing that again in January of 2026. So we've been hard at work trying to work on our winners for that. So stick around for that here, probably just a little over a month.
Yeah. In a little bit less exciting news, Kaiser Permanente outsourced its national education theater program in January, and that included local jobs like the Colorado Theater Guild president, Betty Hart, who had been working for the company for years.
Yeah.
Kaiser Permanente, they're kind of more about in the healthcare space, so it makes sense that they would eventually kind of phase this theater program out, as it's probably losing a ton of money and is not really core to their mission. But it was still super depressing to hear, because this was actually paying artists, giving them a day job that they could do, and where they're going into schools and they're doing these really kind of revolutionary theater programs that can be life-changing for the students who participate, and gives working artists a steady paycheck as well as healthcare. And so when they announced that they were outsourcing that to private companies and cutting all those jobs, that was definitely a bummer.
Yep. Yep. Also in January, Denver native Jake Brash had the world premiere of his new work, The Reservoir, which we had seen the reading of at the Colorado New Play Festival the previous year. So it got its world premiere at the DCPA before it also went into the Alliance Theater and Giffen Playhouse. Great script. We were a little mixed on the production itself, mostly from the lead actor, but overall a strong play and a lot of great positive reception for it.
Yeah, I think the script is really the star of that show. And because the script is so strong and it's not a massive cast, I think odds are good that we see The Reservoir popping up in regional houses all around the country. Then in February, it was a bit of a quiet month. There wasn't a ton going on outside of the Alamo Draft House, which is a movie theater. So I guess it still technically counts as theater news.
Mm-hmm.
Their national strike started here in Colorado. Our locations here were the first to authorize that strike, protesting against unfair treatment, demanding higher wages and more accountability from the management, particularly after the sale to Sony had gone through. And they knew that this company was pretty flush with cash, but they were not passing that cash down onto the people who actually work for them.
Yeah. Do you know what was the upshot of that? Did they get their pay raised and all that, or?
I know that the strike eventually ended, and that there was some movement. I don't know the specifics though.
Okay. Let's just assume everything ended happily ever after, or they got all kinds of, I don't know. Strikes they always end some way or another, not always to everybody's delight. So in March, on the big screen side of things, Jenna Bainbridge made history as the first wheelchair user to portray Nessa Rose in Wicked on Broadway. So that was pretty cool news. Closer to home, at Vintage Theater, executive director Margaret Norwood left that slot after 3 years. So that was among some other leadership changes at some arts organizations, right, Toni?
Yeah, that's right. Because also in March, after only 18 months on the job, Nicole Herndon resigned as executive director of the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center. She accepted a job in Texas and left after being pretty publicly committed to staying on board and trying to help the Fine Arts Center through transitions. There have been a bunch of people kind of going in that leadership position. It's kind of been a revolving door of leaders. Nicole seemed like she was going to stick, and the Fine Arts Center had been doing some pretty interesting work. So people were excited about her, but then she's out, and there hasn't been a ton of movement on replacing her as the Fine Arts Center decided to pause so they could assess what was going on internally that has led to so many people leaving the organization.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the vintage theater side, I don't know that they've got a new. I think when I was looking at the program the other night, they have an interim executive director. I don't think they've replaced Margaret quite yet, although they do have a new marketing person. So that's a positive sign. They didn't have any one of those people there for a while after the sort of tumultuous exit of Woodsick last year, who sent out one of those tear the drapes down on the way out emails, as I recall. But hopefully
That
things
is
are
correct.
settling down there. They're back in their usual rhythm of producing just tons of shows. They've got, they're doing, what is it? The Shark is Broken. They're doing that next month at Vintage. I'm looking forward to checking that one out. Because it was done for a short run somewhere else earlier this year. And I can't remember.
The Springs Ensemble Theater Company
That's right. Yeah.
did a run of it earlier this year. I'm looking forward to that one as well. I'm going to be attending as an audience member. I will not be able to review or report on it in any official capacity because I have a conflict of interest. My roommate is in that production, so I
Whoa.
have to abstain. I cannot engage in that production in any capacity other than an encouraging audience member.
All right. Also, back on the film side of things, the big news in Colorado, performing arts news this year was that Sundance Film Festival finally selected Boulder for its new home after many years in Utah. So that's something you are going to be intimately involved with as a film buff and as a theater writer. So I know that, Toni, you're going to be Mr. Sundance in the coming years.
Yeah, that's right. I'm excited about it. They'll be here for the first time in January 2027. So we still have about a year till they get here, but Sundance has already been holding a lot of community events that I have been attending. They seem to be really trying to make an effort to make Colorado feel a part of Sundance even before they arrive. I'm definitely watching this, and it just seems like every single town within a 30-mile radius of Boulder is rapidly trying to build performance spaces so that they can be a spot for Sundance. And I think that's awesome that there are more performance spaces coming online, but I also think there are going to be a lot of disappointed people because Sundance is not going to be everywhere.
Yeah. All right. Well, in April, this is an old title, but it was such a good production that I see why you put it on the list. Little Shop of Horrors. Chris Coleman directed this at the Denver Center Theater Company. It was just a fantastic job. It was just, for two people like us, who's like that's my favorite, probably my favorite musical. It was just such a great production. It was so fun to see it on the big stage with all the bells and whistles that the Denver Center can throw at it. So that was definitely a highlight of the spring.
Definitely. Also in April, we had some more leadership news. This time it was over at Theater Works. They selected Max Schulman to be their next artistic director. And Alex, you've gotten to talk with Max more than I have. Can you add a little bit of context about him?
Yeah, well, he's a professor there at the University of Colorado Springs, which is the kind of the host facility for TheaterWorks. And sounds like a great selection. Real theater person, a real theater person or something like that. But he had done things like, he was the one who put together that Richard II and III that was combined.
King Henry.
The
Henrys.
Yeah, the Henrys. I was get those confused. Also a literary theater person. So I imagine he will really be a great fit for their TheaterWorks program there, which is just always doing great stuff.
Mm-hmm. The Rocky Mountain Rhythm, which is a tap organization based in the Denver metro area, celebrated its 10th anniversary this year with a massive show that it did in April. Rocky Mountain Rhythm is a really cool organization. They are behind a lot of collaborations in the dance world. And it's really awesome to see an organization like that celebrate its 10th year. So just wanted to quickly shout them out.
All right. Toni loves tap.
I do. Yeah, I do love
Toni
tap. Quickest
Tresca
way to get
loves
me
the
in the
tap.
door.
Did somebody say tap? In May, national politics hit Colorado with the evil Trump administration's freeze on NEA funds. So some of our arts organizations in Colorado lost out, including Family Theater and Modus Theater. And that's still a story that's playing out every day as companies, all kinds of nonprofits of all stripes, are trying to figure out how to make do without some of this funding that's just been ripped away without any real rhyme or reason.
Yeah, and I think that month it also became very real that Trump was very serious about his intent to remove funding from the National Endowment from the Arts in 2026. He had already at this time announced that he wanted funds to be cut from them and the agency to be completely defunded. And then when they clawed back funding that had already been awarded for the previous year from 8 Colorado arts organizations, I think that threat became a lot more real. And from folks who I've been talking to, I think they opened their eyes that it's time we can't rely on the federal government for the next 4 years. We're going to have to figure out how to fundraise ourselves, rely on state and city sources because federal government is gone. It's basically been taken off the board.
Yep. And who knows if and when it'll come back.
In more positive news, The Narrators is celebrating 15 years of storytelling. This is a podcast slash live event that takes place now largely at Buntport Theater. They do it once a month. It's very loosely themed topics that people will then come up and share stories that the organizers have never heard live for the first time in front of an audience. It's a really ballsy concept. I've seen this a couple times. It's never the same show because of that nature. The nature of people are just bringing whatever stories have happened to them recently to the experience, but it's always really interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun thing, and unlike anything else really going on around town. So
Hmm.
in June, some more not so great news. So to Fort Collins arts organizations sounded the funding alarm. Open Stage, which has been in the community for more than 50 years, said that their funding sources were down 36% and really struggling to make it up. Also, Bob Blue Theater there in Fort Collins had launched an emergency GoFundMe campaign saying they're facing one of the greatest challenges in their history. So yeah, hopefully they had some success with that. But yeah, it's definitely tough times highlighted by those two companies.
Yeah. And it's interesting. At the same time that those organizations announced that they were struggling, Colorado did award about $10 million in community revitalization tax credits to support creative mixed use community projects statewide. So this was pretty cool because it included parts of the state that aren't often featured, like Durango and Pueblo. And these were projects that had both an artistic component as well as either an environmental sustainability component or housing built in to it. So it was really cool to see at a time when the federal government is really backing away from supporting arts. Colorado is stepping up in some way.
Yep. Also in June, the 5th annual Boulder Comedy Festival took over in Boulder County with 37 performers. You hit some of these, didn't you, Toni?
I did. This is a really fun event. Its mission is to spotlight folks who maybe aren't as featured in the comedy scene, and they definitely do a really great job of that. They take over a bunch of different venues all across Boulder County. This was their biggest festival yet, with their most performers, their most venues, and the shows that I went to over in Louisville was a hoot and a half.
Gotta love a comedy festival. Colorado's a pretty good place for comedy these days. In fact, I forgot to mention I got out to Rise Comedy on Friday night. Jen and I went out and saw Mouse Couch, improv troupe
The
there. I think it
improv
was,
troupe.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. That's such a fun place to go to. It's kind of more laid back than going to like Comedy Works or something like that. They had a packed
Definitely.
house and it was a lot of fun. Anyway, going back to our list, July, this is near and dear to your heart. Boulder Weekly, which used to employ Toni to write and report on theater in Boulder County, kicked the bucket. So what the heck happened to the Boulder Weekly? I was there for decades. I remember for forever.
It was. Yeah, it was. It's really all came down to conflicts between the publisher and the editorial staff that resulted in everybody being fired and the publisher just kind of up and quitting, just pulled the plug on it all. It's a really shitty situation. I won't get into it too much here, but if you've noticed that there has been a lack of of coverage in arts and culture in Boulder County after that. That's because a major cover of it, Boulder Weekly, just literally dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah, really sad. I mean, of course, it's among many titles in publications around Colorado this year to have folded. A lot of little papers like on the Eastern Slope, places like that. But this was you would think a place like Boulder could sustain a weekly publication like that. But there's a lot more to it, right, Tony?
That's right. And you know what they say, when one door closes, another one opens. May have some really interesting, exciting news to share about the future of the folks who worked at Boulder Weekly coming soon in the new
Really?
year.
Okay. Exciting.
Yeah, just a little tease there, Alex.
All right. All right. Also in June, the I'm sorry, July. This was, God, is that when the Henry Awards were? It was in July. It seems like it was forever ago. So they had another nice, tight awards ceremony there at the Lone Tree Arts Center and gave out their annual awards. So that was fun. We were both there.
The big winner this year was the Rocky Mountain Repertory Theater, which took home 7 wins this year, including for its productions of Come From Away and The Music Man. Really just a banger season for them. And yeah, it was cool to see a company like that take home a lot of the top awards.
Yep. And then in August, on sort of the, I don't know, other side of the pendulum, or is that a thing? Other side of the coin, the world premiere of Sweet and Lucky Echo. So this was kind of a flop. It was the Denver Center Off Center had been kind of making a big deal about this for a long time. It was a sort of a reprise in a way of one of the original big shows that Off Center did. Boy, we both were just super underwhelmed by it.
We were. It was I found it to be incredibly disappointing on both like a creative standpoint, and then I heard rumblings from folks involved with the production that it did not sell well at all. And then we've got some news about Off Center that came up later in the year that also made our list. So I think that how this production being such a spectacular failure was definitely part of the reason that maybe Off Center is not existing in its current form anymore.
Yeah, it certainly didn't help. On the other hand, a much smaller operation with 2 Cent Lion, The Legend of Anne Bonny, which is a world premiere pirate musical that was just fantastic. I really loved it. And we had the creator on the podcast, and she was a delight. And so just, yeah, I'm really curious to see if that one's going to have some legs, because I think it should.
I caught up with Emmy McGuire 2.5 weeks ago because she has a new book that just came out called No One Aboard. Right. It just released. So I caught up with her for Westward. You can check out my feature with her coming out either later this week or next week, profiling that book as well as discussing her experience working on The Legend of Anne Bonny. And I can say this because it's going to be confirmed in the piece. There will be life for Anne Bonny after this. Emmy McGuire, she is in talks with other companies to produce this. They're working on putting together cast recording. There's lots of exciting stuff that's going to be happening with The Legend of Anne Bonny. It's not the last time we've heard of it.
Yeah, Emmy's great. She's a great artist on stage, and also a novelist, and a lot of fun to talk to. So. Sad news, a beloved member of the theater community, Wayne Kennedy, passed away at 64 from pancreatic cancer. He was really well known for his work at the Boulder Dinner Theater for many, many years, and other theaters as well. So a real loss to the theater community there.
Philip Sneed also announced in August that he was going to be leaving the organization. He's stepping down from his role as president and CEO of the Arvada Center. That's going to be effective next June. And they also announced at that time that they were going to be beginning their national search for his replacement. I've heard from some folks involved in that process that those interviews are actively underway. So who knows? We could be getting an announcement about that anytime soon, but likely in the new year.
Tony, you got your MBA and your master's in theater administration. I think you should throw your hat in the ring there. Why not? Do it.
I think I'm a little late to the call, Alex.
I don't know. Everybody's trying to get rid of all these old guys. You know, we need some young blood out there to run the country. Maybe they can take a look.
I heard from my sources that they're looking for somebody who has an artistic experience but lots of development experience to take this role. So I don't know if I would be the most qualified. They're looking for a money person.
Development means you gotta beat the bushes for money, which not everybody likes to do. That's for sure.
And I think it makes sense. Did you know this, Alex? The Arvada Center only raises $1 million a year.
Really?
I was shocked when I learned that fact. They have 5 people on their development team. What are they doing?
I don't know. Well, they're obviously leaning on the town or the city that supports them in some way. But
Oh,
seems
you
like
are definitely accurate. That is how they make a substantial amount of their change. But I think I understand why they're looking for somebody who has development experience to take over Philip Snead's position.
That's interesting. All right. Well, in September, so that we had this tragic shooting in Evergreen, and it had an interesting impact on theater because Ovation West at the time was doing Annie Get Your Gun, and also included some students from the high school, from Evergreen High School, where the shooting had taken place. So they had a real, come to Jesus moment where they were like, "What do we do with this show? Do we open back up with this gun themed show?" And they thought a lot about it, and they came back. They kind of dubbed it Annie Get Your Man, and they came out and they didn't use what were they using instead of guns? They were using things that didn't look like guns. I don't know if they were holding cucumbers or bananas or what, but that's how they did it, and they managed to close out that run in a decent manner, I believe.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. I was glad to see that the show did go on, because when we talked about it after the news broke and the shooting was still fresh in everybody's mind, you and I both publicly speculated that they weren't going to go on, that they were going to cancel the show. But instead, the company rallied, they leaned in, they listened to the community, they talked with folks about what they wanted, and folks wanted the show to go on. So they did it. And
they did it really. They really did
them.
it the right way. Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
they got a sense from the community that they would be okay with moving forward with it and all that. So more good. Some other cool news from the Federal Theater, which people have been driving past on Federal Boulevard for years, wondering about this old sort of Art Deco looking little theater. And what's the story behind this one? Is it doing anything yet?
It's hosting mostly like music stuff and then like live events, like your comedy stuff and storytelling things coming through. Hasn't secured a ton of like mainstream artists or big shows yet, but I think that's just because they're kind of still trying to build that out, and they're a new venue on the market for promoters to kind of acknowledge. So I think it'll just take some time. I'm optimistic that the Federal Theater will be able to do this because this is a solid local team who has had success with other venues building them back up.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be curious to get in there someday because it sounds that those old theaters are just like they don't make them like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Also in September, Matt Giles was selected to fill the role of general director at TheaterWorks, so accompanying Max over there. And then you know about this one because you're Mr. Estes Park now. The Stanley Events Center broke ground at Estes Park. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so Jared Polis was there along with Jason Blum of Blumhouse Productions, the horror movie place, as well as other things. They were there for this major campus extension of the Stanley that's set to feature a 1,000-seat theater, a horror film museum, and an event hub, all expected to be completed around 2028. This is being pitched to the community as like a major moment for them. They're going to be able to attract outside talent. This is really going to put Estes Park on the map, particularly in the horror world as well. It's already there because of its connection with The Shining there, but now that they've got Blumhouse and all these exhibits there, it's really solidifying that. And this is definitely a play at trying to get Sundance to come to Estes Park and do screenings at that theater. Although, if I was a betting man, I would not put money on that happening.
That's a bit of a trek from
It is.
Boulder. I mean, you live in Cap Hill. How long does it take you to get to Estes Park?
It takes me an hour and a half to get to Estes Park.
Yeah, it's too far away. They should make it closer.
Why don't we just pick up Estes Park and move it over here?
Yeah, they'd probably have to move the whole park as well. So,
yeah. Estes Park is a lovely place. Frankly, it doesn't have the infrastructure to support really major events. There's no parking in the town. Residents also hate people coming to Estes Park, so they're not supportive of this either. This really does feel like it was a pitch designed in a vacuum to appeal to no one.
Okay. I think there's a I don't know, a play script in there, a pitch designed in a vacuum, appealing to no one. All right. In October, Denver Center Theater Company opened Cat on a Hot Tin Roof with a real raft of local talent. That was really a banger show. But on the flip side, Denver Center also announced that Off Center was no longer going to be producing original immersive work, and that Charlie Miller, who'd been heading up that program, announced that he'd be leaving this coming March. So yeah, kind of a mixed bag there. And I think everybody's still kind of wondering what Denver has become a little bit of an immersive hub, and Off Center was at the center of that hub. And so what's that going to look like moving forward?
Yeah, the DCPA giveth and the DCPA taketh away. Luckily, I did get to catch up with Charlie Miller over at Camp Christmas, and he said that he intends, at least right now, to stay in Denver, and he plans to stay invested in the immersive theater space. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Does that mean we're looking at a future where Charlie Miller is working with Dirt or another one of the local immersive theater troupes? Or is he going to start his own thing? Is he going to do immersive consulting around the country? I think Charlie Miller's future is bright. This is more sad for the DCPA, for them just kind of throwing up their hands and just saying we can't make immersive work.
Yeah, maybe Charlie will take over Bowls with the Bard.
Oh, I'd love that. He could. Honestly, anything he wants to do, I'm there for. Charlie I have a lot of respect for him and what he's tried to do over there.
Yep. Yep. And then you know more about this. I'll let you take this next one from Bonfils Stanton Foundation.
Yeah, Gary Stewart is kind of shocked the local arts community when he announced that he was going to be leaving the Bonfils Stanton Foundation after more than 12 years as its president and CEO. He's done a ton of great work for the organization, really made the foundation a lot more nimble, and really pivoted to supporting arts and culture organizations. That wasn't always the focus of the Bonfils Stanton Foundation, but under his tenure with the org, it has really placed a lot of emphasis on that. However, Gary is not leaving the arts scene altogether. He's just going up north to Estes Park, actually. He's serving on the board. I think it's the board. I can't remember the official capacity, but he's working with the Stanley Event Center to help bring that to the new generations. I think that's an exciting opportunity for him. As we said, Estes Park has a lot of challenges, but if anybody can handle it, I think Gary's up for the challenge.
I'm sure he is. Yeah. Slightly smaller organization than Bonfils Stanton is the Buntport Theater, but they announced that they're embarking on a 5-year, $2.65 million capital campaign to secure their long-term home on Lipan Street there in Denver. So this is everybody's excited to hear that that Buntport is doing this. They're such a staple, and they're just a wonderful group of theater artists there that do neat stuff, and they also are known for sharing their space with other companies and people that need the space. So, and they're currently leasing that, so they're doing a kind of a lease to own thing. So best of luck to them to keep expanding that program there.
Mm-hmm. In November, we saw Ballyhoo Table and Stage open in Denver on Tejon Street. This is the space that has been built from the ground up by Julia Toby. It's been taken a ton of time. It was originally set to open earlier this year, but got pushed to November due to all of the trouble and headaches that came with working with the city to try to open a new space. But now that it's open, it's a really cool thing. It's got singing bartenders, a stage out in the front, a massive performance hall in the back where they just remounted Hedwig and the Angry Inch. It's a really cool space, and if folks have not gone to check it out, I really recommend you do it.
Yep. Yeah, I still haven't gotten over there. I need to check it out. Also in November, Mallory Pierce was announced to join Creed Rep Theater as its new development director. And then also Camp Christmas is, speaking of off-center, it's back, and it's at the Stanley Marketplace in Aurora in a sort of different iteration than it was previously, and mostly sort of the brainchild of, or sort of spearheaded by its creator, Lonnie Hansen, with sort of, I guess, lesser influence or support from off center, but they're still there at Stanley. And we're going to plan on take on our family out there here pretty soon with the gang of us to check it out, because your review of it really was great. It really gave us an idea of what that sounds like a really cool, sort of second, third, fourth act for Camp Christmas there.
I think it really is very effective. Lonnie Hansen is funding this whole operation himself now, with all falling on him. But I think he's proven that he he's a very nimble creative, and this model is super adaptable. It can be put in a lot of different spaces and done effectively. I think, yeah, I was very, very pleasantly surprised with how Camp Christmas looked this year.
Yep.
Then over at the Arvada Center, Frozen broke the company's box office record before it even opened, earning $1.265 million.
Amazing. So more than the 5-person development team did this in the last
Oh
year.
my God, you're absolutely right, Alex.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. All right. Well, in December, John Moore announced that this would be his last year doing the True West Awards. So these are, he does. They're not like like we talked about. They're not best this, best that. They're more like he calls them bouquets. He's been doing them for 25 years. Started out as the Ovation Awards when he was at the Denver Post, and so he will be on next week to talk about sort of the people who've gotten awards so far this year. Of course, he can't announce all of them because they're not done yet, but also, what's next. And he'll also talk to us a little bit about the Denver Actors Fund and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing from John next week. He's always a great podcast guest. And I've been really enjoying reading his True West Awards this year. It really feels like he's pulling out all the stops.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we are going to take a quick break, and when we return, we will share our top 10 Colorado headliners, which are some of the shows we think you should check out.
OnStage Colorado is brought to you by the Aurora Fox Arts Center, presenting the Farnsdale Avenue Housing Estate Townswomen's Guild Dramatic Society's production of A Christmas Carol, November 28th through December 21st. The Fox will welcome some of the true grand dames of the Colorado theater community to the stage for this hilarious, nonstop journey into a holiday show gone utterly and madly wrong. Tickets at aurorafoxartscenter.org. And we're supported by the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College, presenting Mary Poppins through December 20th. This classic tale of a struggling family brought back together by a special nanny and a spoonful of sugar will bring extra cheer to your holiday season. Tickets at fac.coloradocollege.edu. OnStage Colorado receives support from the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, whose production of Every Brilliant Thing plays December 5th through 28th at the Dairy Arts Center in Boulder. This one-man show, starring Matt Zambrano, is a deeply funny and life-affirming play that lifts up the good in all of us. Tickets at betc.org. This episode is also sponsored by Colorado Candlelight, presenting $1 Million Quartet Christmas through January 11th. Set in a Christmas-decorated studio, this holiday edition of $1 Million Quartet features Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, and Elvis Presley with holiday tunes and fun-filled stories of Christmas past, present, and future. Tickets at coloradocandlelight.com. We also received support from Miners Alley Performing Arts Center, presenting 2 holiday shows through December 28th. First, it's Stocking Stuffers, a brand new adults-only musical comedy packed with heart, a healthy dose of irreverence, and big laughs with a holiday twist. Plus, It's a Wonderful Life, a live radio play, a fully staged production that brings the beloved holiday classic to life. Tickets at minersalley.com.
Okay, it's time for this week's headliners. These are some shows of interest coming up in the next week or so, although we're using that "or so" a little liberally this month since This is our last Colorado headliners before the new year. So, Alex, what do you want to recommend to start with?
Well, I was looking at the calendar and I was just noticing that this Saturday there's 55 entries on Saturday alone of shows around Colorado.
Ooh.
So there's a lot to choose from.
Shows.
So yeah, like you said, it's going to be our last for 2025. So, and a lot of these shows we've talked about, or you're going to mention. So I was just going to skip ahead a little bit and look at a little bit later, some of the New Year's Eve stuff. But first, I want to mention The Notebook, the musical, will be this is a touring Broadway production, will be at the Denver Center Buell Theater, December 16th through 28th. So this is based on that best-selling novel that turned into a big film. It was the one where water was being poured on them while they kissed or something. That's like the only thing I remember about it. Or they were kissing in the rain. I don't know. But
I think it's Kissing in the Rain.
Okay.
The water pouring is another. That's something else.
Conflating it with another rom-com or something. I don't know, sorry. But anyway, you're going to be out at that one, so we'll get a review of that. I'm curious to hear about it. But that one, I'm sure there'll definitely be some people that'll want to check that out because it's a musical.
Definitely. I'm taking my girlfriend who loves The Notebook. We watched it on Valentine's Day this year. I hadn't seen it before. And when I told her that The Notebook was being adapted into a musical, she said, "You're joking, right? That can't be real. That can't be serious. Why would they do that?" So I'm curious to see what that actually looks like in practice. It doesn't Scream, movie
No.
that needs to be a musical to me. But
Yeah.
whatever. We'll see.
Jen didn't want to see it just because they die at the end.
Fair
which
enough.
I guess it's not really
It
a
is
spoiler.
pretty sad.
But yeah, you can make a musical out of anything. You can make a musical out of Mein Kampf if you wanted to. Well, I guess Mel Brooks kind of did that.
I was about to say, I think that's the producers, right?
Yes, absolutely. Comedy. I'm just going to talk about some comedy to wrap up the year with, because I think comedy is a great way to end the year. So at Denver Comedy Underground, they have Ben Roy's Ha Ha Holiday Comedy Show is going to be December 26th and 27th. Plus, if you know, Denver Comedy Underground comes with free pizza with every show. So you're always guaranteed, a bite to eat while you're there. I don't know how good the pizza is, but this sounds like it'll be a lot of fun to get out for comedy to end up the year. And I'll just close this out and mention the other ones. So Comedy Works South for New Year's Eve is doing New Year's Eve with Eddie Ift, and on Comedy Works Downtown is doing New Year's Eve with Emo Phillips, who's people might recognize a very strange character from from I don't know, the 90s or something like that. And then at Denver Comedy Lounge, they're doing a New Year's Eve comedy showcase on New Year's Eve. So if you want to end the season on a laugh, those are some options for you. I noticed Rise Comedy's closed on New Year's Eve, so that's not an option. But I don't know. I'm sure there's probably some other ones going on around the state if you want to laugh your way into 2026.
Yeah. And for my headliners this week, I just rounded up all the remaining holiday shows that are going on around. So we talked about this one a little bit last week because it was one of John Moore's True West Award winners, but this is the final season for Santa's Big Red Sack. This is a sketch comedy show that's been satiring the holiday season since 2002, and its final year is going to be happening over at the People's Building through the 24th of December. If you live closer to Golden, why not go over to the Golden Outpost to check out Grandma's Last Hayride? This is being produced by Elevate Immersive, and it's inspired by the beloved Christmas song Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
It is not beloved. Everybody hates that song. Come on.
Okay, well, it's beloved to me. Fine, it's a Christmas song I love, and I guess Alex and co hate.
I thought that was a given. Like everybody hates Nazis. Everybody hates. I guess not everybody hates Nazis. We're finding out, but
yeah, I was about to say. I guess I don't want to be associated with that first one. I do hate the Nazis. But I do like Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
Okay, I don't know how we conflated Nazis with Nazis. Why did it have to be Nazis? All right.
So this production is a mystery where you're trying to figure out which reindeer murdered Grandma. So if you want to do that, you can head over to the Golden Outpost through December 20th. I already talked about this show at the top of the program, but Jacob Marley's Christmas Carol is being staged by the Breckenridge Backstage Theater December 10th through the 31st. But it's different than the one that's being staged by Elemental Theater because there's actually two versions of the script. Elemental Theater is doing the 4-person version, whereas Breckenridge Backstage Theater is doing the solo actor version. So it's a one-person show doing all of the parts and whatnot. So you can see both Jacob Marley's Christmas carols, and they will be totally different.
All right. Good to know.
If you're in the Lakewood area, Three Leeches is doing a new play festival. This is actually the second weekend of it, and they've got a couple plays that you can check out, including Stems by Clove Love, State and Superior by Kaylee Anderson Barr, and The Bob Zone by Bob Byrnes.
All right.
No other information, but I like the title, The Bob Zone. That's fun. And then finally, Ballet Ariel is going to be doing kind of a mashup performance of Little Women and The Nutcracker in Lakewood and North Glen through the 28th of December. It's got live music by Gossamer Winds. I got to sit in on a rehearsal and watch them perform their version of Little Women. It's more just kind of flashes of Little Women. It's trying to evoke who these characters are in short dance scenes rather than telling you the full story. And then the Nutcracker is the Nutcracker Suite, so it's just the highlights from the second act that you know and love.
All right. Sounds cool.
Yeah. And with that brings us to the end of our episode this week. But don't fear, we'll be back again next week with our final episode of 2025, including a special guest and longtime friend of the podcast, the Denver Gazette's senior arts journalist, John Moore.
Great. Look forward to seeing you there, John. Don't tap out on us, okay?
Yeah, please. We've already publicly committed to it, so we'll look like Bobo the Fools if not. So what can listeners find on the OnStage Colorado site between now and then?
Tons of stuff. So on the site right now, we've got my review of It's a Wonderful Life radio play at Miners Alley, Alice Caterlin's review of Colorado Ballet's The Nutcracker, which she said was fantastic once again. Kim Nicoletti up in Silverthorne checked out Murder for Two Holiday Edition at Theater Silco. Megan Neary, newer reviewer up in Fort Collins, reviewed Dinner with Friends at Bablu, and then we'll have Toni's review of Stocking Stuffers at Miners Alley, Jacob Marley's Christmas Carol from Elemental Theater, Granny Dances to a Holiday Drum by Cleo Parker Robinson, Dance a Few Good Men by Upstart Crow, and we'll have your review of Christmas movie, The Play, The Beginning by Unleashed Theater Company soon, as well as Alice's review of Betsy's Every Brilliant Thing. Phew,
oh my
lots of stuff.
God. I felt bad for you just going through that list, Alex. You sound exhausted by the end. That's a lot of reviews.
So, yeah, and there's more to come. This weekend, our team's going to be out getting to see Holiday Hotel at Wonderbound. I'll be at that. You'll Be Naughty at the Millabo Art Theater. April will be at that one. Jacob Marley's Christmas Carol at Breckenridge Backstage. Kim Nicoletti will be at that one. I'll be at Frozen at the Arvada Center Friday. And then What the Dickens by What If Theater and Little Women, the Nutcracker from Ballet Ariel from Miss Toni Tresca right here. So lots more coming up on the site.
Yeah, there should be no complaints this holiday season about a lack of reviews.
That's right.
We are busting our asses to get out to as many holiday shows as humanly possible.
That's right. We need a sleigh powered by magical ungulates to do.
Unfortunately, they were sold out on Amazon, so I wasn't able to get one this holiday season. Maybe next year.
Some of them are murderers, I hear, so you got to be careful.
That's right, Alex.
If you're going to employ reindeers, you got to do a background check.
So if you want to stay up to date on all of that, be sure that you are subscribed to the OnStage Colorado Theater Blast, which is a weekly newsletter that comes out every single Thursday featuring all of these reviews, the podcast episode in there, news from around the state, and then a rundown of all of the shows that are going to be happening that weekend.
It's just a potpourri of theatrical stuff, so check it out. Well, that's all for this week. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Alex Miller.
And I'm Toni Tresca, and we'll see you at the show.